Today, Missouri Senator Josh Hawley revealed that he plans to object the Electoral College certification of Joe Biden's victory. Joining us now to discuss what exactly this means and what is going on exactly is constitutional law attorney Benno. Amir, this kind of shocked a lot of people, so just kind of explain it to us, to our audience. Why is this so important?
Great. Well, it's great to be here. Happy New Year. Early New Year to you both.
You as well.
What this means is, thanks. On January 6th, a joint session of Congress is going to be convened. And what they do with this session is they're going to count the electoral votes. You might remember the Electoral College convened on December 14th, and they cast their votes for whether it's Joe Biden or Donald Trump. And then they mailed all of those envelopes with the votes to the U.S. Capitol. On January 6th, those envelopes get opened and get tallied and read out loud. So what happens is, if there's an objection to one of those or more of those votes, or could be the votes from an entire state even, then what you need is one congressperson and one senator to lodge that objection, and that automatically triggers a suspension of that joint session. And both houses go back to their respective chambers, and they have to deliberate on whether or not to count those votes. And if they agree not to count those votes, then those votes are cast aside. So how does this play into this year when we've heard so much about fraud, when we've heard so much about illegality and unconstitutionality and states not abiding by their election laws? We're going to see objections being raised by congressmen. Mo Brooks has already been very outspoken, and he's been joined by several others, saying that he's going to object to votes that presumably went to Joe Biden from states that were certified to go to Joe Biden. But that objection means nothing unless you have a senator who will join with him. And so what we got now with Josh Hawley from Missouri is you have the senator who's going to stand up and agree to that objection. So automatically now we're going to be guaranteed that both houses, the House and the Senate, are going to convene separately, and they're going to have to debate these issues about fraud and illegality, irregularity in the voting systems, and unconstitutionality. And then they're going to have to vote. Do we count these electoral votes from, say, Pennsylvania or from Georgia or from Nevada, Wisconsin, Michigan, or do we not do it? And so that's what's going to happen on January 6th.
Yeah. Now, when this has happened in the past, overwhelmingly the vote comes back and they count the votes that have been certified from the states. That's what's happened. We don't know if that's what would happen this time, but there is also the contention by some members of the GOP that say the vice president can choose whether or not to accept electoral votes from a given state. And there's that, 1887, the Electoral Vote Count Act, in which they kind of don't give a lot of power to the vice president because they don't want somebody that's in that position deciding whether he continues to be vice president.
Right. Well, so those are two great points that you raised. First, historically speaking, we've only really had two other scenarios since the Electoral Count Act was passed in the late 19th century, where there's been a senator and a congressperson who jointly objected. The most recent one was in 2005, I believe, and that was Senator Barbara Boxer from California and a representative from Ohio who were challenging George W. Bush's, the electoral votes from Ohio going to George W. Bush. They wanted it to go to John Kerry, even though Bush won the popular vote. And they're claiming that objection was that there was irregularity and election fraud, much like you're hearing now. But that was contained to just Ohio. Now, they didn't get the majority. What happens is you have to win a majority in each house for that to win, to strike those votes. So you're correct. That didn't happen. And the one other time it happened was to a single elector. And this was back in the 60s. And again, that was just to a single elector, and that did not carry the day either. So whether or not Vice President Pence has the power, he has a power that he's the presiding officer of the Senate. So he has what's given in the law. He's really what's called a ministerial power. His job is really supposed to be just opening the envelopes, handing them to these people who are called tellers, who are going to pull the document out, much like you'll see at the Academy Awards, and the winner goes to, and they announce who it is. And then his job is at the end of it all to declare who the victor is. Now, if they have these objections, he is not supposed to be able to rule substantively on these objections, saying, I deny your objections on the merits. He's supposed to only say, look, if you don't have a senator and a congressperson who are supporting a particular objection, then I'm not going to hear the objection. If you do have that, however, go to your separate rooms, debate among yourselves, take your votes, and then report back and let me know whether a majority in each house has voted and which way they voted.
And it's going to be.
He's just supposed to.
Yeah, I don't mean to cut you off. Unfortunately, we're out of time. It's going to be fascinating to watch what does happen now that we, as you said, we have that senator to make that decision as well, along with Pence. Amir, thank you so much for joining us.
Take care.